I hate this movie. Yes, the visuals are nice. Even astronauts admit that.
The first time seeing the scenes in Gravity and just being so impressed by the visuals.
And the visuals are great.
But they also admit that the famous opening scene has some major flaws in it.
But what happens is so far from reality that I want to turn my head.
But I want to talk about the movie as a movie. Because when you look beyond those visuals and the more intense moments, there's a really stupid movie underneath it. Let's take a look. If you saw this in the movie theater and you got a cool experience out of it, I don't want to take that away from you. I saw The Martian in the theaters when it came out, and it also achieved a lot with the visuals. But just listen to them!
Enjoy your last walk.
Nice foreshadowing.
Funding to my research.
How long was your training?
How do you not know this? Don't you know that astronauts train together for years? And even if you didn't, how don't you know each other better than this?
We're all prototypes. Even for your pretty blue eyes.
Oh my god.
Houston, I have a bad feeling about this mission.
No, please, no.
And then I realized that this guy is not a guy. That my girl is holding hands with
ISS.
What? Are you homophobe? I don't get it. They get to know that the Russians have accidentally blown up a satellite with a missile, and debris is traveling their way. Yeah, because the US would never fuck up like that.
Multiple satellites are down and they keep on falling.
Define multiple satellites.
Most of them are gone.
How did that happen in a few seconds? Wouldn't it have been easier if the debris field knocked out their communication instead of every single satellite around the planet?
This situation where almost out of nowhere comes this massive field of debris is really unlikely. There are people on the ground that track, single pieces of debris in space that are like the size of your hand or even smaller. And somebody down on the ground would have seen that coming way before the call that they were given in this.
The satellite goes whizzing by at about, I don't know, maybe 120 miles an hour. The satellites are going 5 miles a second. They're all yelling back to Houston as if somehow Houston's gonna help them right here.
No, don't wait for us.
I'm stuck.
Oh no, I'm stuck. Please, George Clooney, please help me. This movie was both written and directed by Alfonso Cuarón. And I don't know if he's to blame, but it seems like he has no clue that astronauts go through intense training, preparing for every worst case scenario they can possibly think of.
We absolutely train for these, what you would think of as worst case scenarios where you have to abort immediately.
They train underwater, in low gravity planes, VR, prototypes of the station, in fighter jets, multi-axis generators, centrifuge, and the list goes on. And guess what? They do it together with their crew as much as possible. But in this movie, help me, handsome man, come and save me, ah!
The most experienced astronaut in American history is a woman. It's Peggy Whitson.
GPS is down. It's down. I can't. Ah.
Give me a fish.
When she's faced with a problem, she's panicking and has no idea what to do. And
To be fair, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought it would be about this, an astronaut drifting alone in space, coming to grips with the fact that she's going to die. Kinda like 127 hours, but in space. I would have wanted to know what one would see, and what a person would think in a situation like that. I thought it seemed like a really cool idea. But as you probably know, Clooney shows up.
Gotcha.
I know you never realized how devastatingly good looking I am.
Oh my god. Please stop forcing this romance. It's really not necessary for the story. They recover the body of Mr. Forgettable, and it seems like he's not okay. These are more the speeds we are talking about. But spacesuits are actually designed for this. They have a bulletproof layer, among a lot of other layers. So yes, you could actually shoot an astronaut without decompressing their suit. I wouldn't recommend it though. Can we stop with this picture of family thing? I know it's a quick and easy way to feel bad for somebody, but now I have seen it so many times so it doesn't have the same impact anymore. Anyway, they explored their space shuttle and realized that Ripley is not okay. This is not what somebody would look like after being exposed to space. Your eyes would get sucked out, your body liquids would boil, and you would swell up to twice your size. But whatever, they have to hike all the way to the ISS, which apparently has nobody on it. And they once again clarify that these two have never met before.
Ryan, where's home?
I had a daughter.
I'm sure you did. It wouldn't be a movie without a lost family member. It makes it easier to relate to the character. Honestly, I appreciate this movie taking time. Unfortunately, I cannot show that.
The good news is we're about 5 minutes from the ISS, and I know where the Russians stash their vodka.
Was that supposed to be funny? Oh yeah, Russians always drink their vodka, even in space. Thank you, dude. You are really bringing this world together, just like the International Space Station does.
Tank is out of oxygen, but you still have it in your suit.
Got it.
So you have to sip, not gulp.
Once again, white space knight Clooney. By the way, even after saying that she has run out of oxygen, it takes the movie over 10 minutes to bring her to breathable air. I'm not so sure she would have oxygen for that long. Thanks, Clooney, for taking this unnecessary risk that will not only lead to your death, but possibly hers as well. Because you're making her breathe heavily.
What do I do?
Ryan, listen.
Pull you in.
You have to let me go.
No.
The rope.
I really don't understand this scene. They are trying to imply that there's some force still pulling on Clooney. But from this angle it looks like they have stopped. So what force is still pulling Clooney? Is it dark energy? Space is not like a waterfall, you know?
You're gonna make it, Ryan.
No.
You're getting lightheaded, right?
Yes.
That's because you're breathing CO2.
Oh, come on!
Every time. I crush it every time.
You point the damn thing at Earth. It's not rocket science.
Yes, it very much is. There's a very specific angle you have to re-enter. If you come into steep, you will burn up. If you come into shallow, you will skip over the atmosphere like a rock on water. But wait, she should know this!
So now we have some distance between us. You're attracted to me, right?
Oh, for fuck's sake! Anyway, she gets inside and we're presented with some deep and meaningful symbolism. Do you like this? In that case, you will probably like my movie. It's called Sleeping for 3 Days.
Oh, wow. I sure am tired.
She goes right past the fire without noticing it. And before you know it, the station is on fire. How convenient. Are we supposed to believe that she had nothing to do with the fire? Or did it just conveniently happen after her arrival? And if you're thinking,
hey, you're not supposed to think about this movie logically. You're supposed to be able to relate to the characters.
well, I'm sorry, but it really takes me out of the moment when people don't talk or behave according to their profession, and are instead reading lines from a cliched Hollywood script that is more concerned about being relatable than realistic. Imagine at a hospital if a nurse suddenly turned to the doctor and went like,
Doctor, please help me. I don't know what to do with this.
Come on, darling. Just breathe. You're gonna be okay. Even with your pretty blue eyes. This is not a very hard task.
That made me think about my family. Look, here's a picture of my daughter.
wouldn't that take you out of the moment just a little bit? And I don't care how pretty your visuals are. You're still representing people. They should act like real people. And I'm not saying that your characters aren't allowed to have flaws. That would make them too perfect. I'm only saying that there are ways to write believable characters without making them stupid or helpless, and still let them have flaws. Okay, she escapes from the station and is trying to make her way to the Chinese space station. By the way, don't you love this Russian Cold War technology? Thanks, dude. But she gets stuck in her parachute. Funny that she didn't notice that earlier. She goes outside with her spacesuit from the 60s and tries to detach the parachute. But uh-oh, the debris field. It somehow completely destroys the station and separates one of her solar panels. And somehow she still has power for her control panel later. She also somehow has that really high-tech watch from earlier, but when she tries to fire up the engines, it doesn't work.
You gotta be kidding me! Ah!
She tries to contact Earth, and we get this really painful scene. You get it? She's Laika. You know, the dog who died in space. So the obvious choice in this situation is to commit suicide, of course. Even though she has not tried the separation procedure, or trying to fix the engine, or restore power, or anything. But guess what? Clooney shows up. What? But he's dead, isn't he?
If you decide to go, then you gotta just get on with it. Sit back, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. Enjoy the ride? Okay. This speech is somehow trying to be vague enough to be applied to any conflict in life, but it's so vague that it doesn't even sound like he's talking to her anymore. It's almost closer to a fourth wall breaking than a motivational speech. In my opinion, at least. Mr. Watney, can you please help me out?
When I was up there, stranded by myself, did I think I was gonna die? Yes, absolutely. At some point, everything's gonna go south on you. Everything's gonna go south, and you're gonna say, this is it. This is how I end. Now, you can either accept that, or you can get to work. You do the math. You solve one problem, then you solve the next one, and then the next. And if you solve enough problems, you get to come home.
I think that is more specific for the situation he's in, but can also be applied to anything in life. Also, that's what the astronauts in Apollo 13 faced. Even though their situation looked hopeless, they didn't commit suicide. They solved their problems one by one, and eventually made space history. Great movie, by the way, you should check it out. But here, it's like, enjoy the ride. Oh yeah, my daughter! Boom! Let's go! So she does the separation procedure, which should have been her first option, and then she has this horribly written monologue about her daughter. Yeah, because that's what this movie is really about. It's about family, and moving on from the past.
Can you please tell her that Mama found her red shoe? But it was just right under the bed.
A fucking red shoe, really? So for the last distance, she has this terrible idea to open up the hatch without depressurizing the shuttle, and then project herself with a fire extinguisher, which somehow still has some juice in it, even though she has already used it in this movie. Just look at this scene! How can anybody take this seriously? If your perception of realism wasn't gone before, by now it should be. This is a terrible idea! Are you serious? How do you destroy 2 space stations in one movie? Give her some credit at least. She didn't even touch this one. So she enters the Chinese space station and... I have so many questions. First, why? Why are you enforcing these stereotypes? Second, why? Come on, why didn't you put braces and chopsticks and math books and denied driver's applications and eye-widening tools? I mean, just to get your point across. You have been so subtle throughout the rest of this movie. Surely you wouldn't want to waste this opportunity. Okay, I'm not gonna act like I speak for a whole group of people that I don't represent, but even from my point of view, putting these jokes, or whatever you want to call them, does not help anyone to see people from other ethnicities more like people, and less than stereotypes. I'm just saying. Okay, we're almost at the end. She separates from the station, has a terrible monologue about her family and moving on and all that bullshit.
'Cause either way, it'll be one hell of a ride.
She crashes into the water and takes her first steps towards a new life after being reborn. Thank God, because this movie is so stupid. It's sexist, unrealistic, misrepresentative of people in space, and maybe even a little bit racist. That's enough to break almost any movie, but even if you take all that away, it's still a really stupid movie. It is somehow trying to take such an unrelated subject as moving on from your child dying and somehow translate it to a space survival story. And the end result is so cliched and unnecessary bland and really not worth your time. If you want to see a good space survival movie, check out Apollo 13. It is very well made, and is actually really close to the events that actually took place. And if that doesn't do it for you, The Martian is also a good movie. I can also recommend the book by Andy Weir. But with that being said, I'm not an astronaut. So let's ask an actual astronaut about this movie. Chris Hadfield, what would you have changed about this movie?
Get the characters right. Get it to represent what astronauts are actually like, and then build the story around that.
Thanks for watching. Bye!